the amount of compilation albums I have in my entire music collection is somewhat deficient, and it's not by accident either. A lot of times I really am more of an album person and only enjoy compilations if a label such as Motown or Chess is more singles related. And you know, with MP3s being a major phenomenon these days, you know, it's gone back to a singles oriented situation. That being said, it was my boyfriend Scott who actually got me into the idea of collecting more various artists' albums, compilations, soundtracks, and such, including greatest hits albums, some of which contain material that I already have, some songs I didn't have, and here's a collection I have of 14 albums, and I'm going to be calling this particular video my greatest hits. They aren't my personal greatest hits, like I'm an actual musician or something, but these are the greatest hits albums that I have. There's no genre rules or anything, but these are all by a single artist. They're not various artist compilations. I'm going to save that for another video I'm going to be doing. And these extend from 1972 to 1987, so there's a long period of time to work with. And we're going to start out with an album that I picked up primarily for its packaging, and the name of the album is Sing It Again, Rod. It's a Rod Stewart compilation from his first 4 Mercury albums, one of which was called the Rod Stewart album, and the last of which was Never a Dull Moment. It's made to look like a glass of whiskey with Rod Stewart's face in it. There's the inner sleeve of that album. And on the back, there's an interesting sort of flipping opening. There's some pictures of Rod Stewart performing live in that era. And there's the song titles. This is just on the Mercury label from 1972. The next album, this is one that was in my family's record collection for a very long time, and one of my favorite compilation albums, Chicago, sometimes called Chicago 8 since they label their albums sequentially. This follows Chicago from their first album, Chicago Transit Authority, all the way up to their 1974 album, Chicago 7. And the interesting thing about this record, it has that inner sleeve, the Chicago logo on the back, but it also has a great custom label too. Always something I like to show off. Next up we have Horace Silver on the Blue Note reissue series. These were a series of jazz compilations the Blue Note put out in 1975, featuring some of their great artists. I don't usually mention price on here, as many of you know, with video game related or VC related things, you often hear, don't tell the price of something, it's driving it up so we can't get it now. But I'm going to do it with this one. I got this album for $1. A message to stores, don't drive your prices up on used vinyl just because I said that. Thank you. Keep music for everybody. This includes songs like Song for My Father. It goes from roughly 1959 up through the late 60s, 1968. A song called Psychedelic Sally. So this is a great collection of Horace Silver's late 50s to late 60s Blue Note recordings. If you don't have any Horace Silver and you find this on vinyl, get it. Great collection of soul jazz. The next album is Bee Gees Gold. What makes this album really interesting for me is that it actually is on the RSO label. It has the Bee Gees RSO logo. And it is all songs from their Atco days, such as How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, You Don't Know What It's Like to Love Somebody, Massachusetts, I Started a Joke. And it looks like there's some inserts that are interesting of this album too. So I'll open it up and show you. There's some pictures of the Bee Gees during their Atco years. There's a really young pictures of the Gibb brothers. I don't think it has a custom label on it, and it doesn't. The Best of the Doobie Brothers. That album you just saw was from 1976, by the way. This album is also from 1976, and it's called The Best of the Doobie Brothers. This extends from their second album, Toulouse Street, all the way through their first album with Michael McDonald, Taking It to the Streets. Just a great collection of early to mid-70s Doobie Brothers. They had a second volume that covered more of the Michael McDonald period, but just happy to have this. Looking back, this is actually the second copy of this vinyl we have. If you see in the corner, it's a limited 3-record set, but it should really be, you know, out on CD, because this is the best compilation of Stevie Wonder's work from 1962 to 1971. It starts with his very first single, Thank You for Loving Me All the Way, to his early, I guess you could call it, funk process single, Do Yourself a Favor. It's got Uptight, it's got For Once in My Life, Workout Stevie Workout, Hey Harmonica Man, you know, all that great stuff. It's one of the best compilations of early Stevie Wonder on vinyl that you can get. It has the tracks on the back, if you can see them. I just really enjoy having that. Kiss, Double Platinum. This is a 1978, their first best of, I believe. It contains all their hits from 1974 approximately through that time. So it's got Detroit Rock City, Love Gun, Rock and Roll All Night, and Beth. As you can see, this album is embossed. There are the pictures of Gene and Paul and Ace and Peter Criss. It's an embossed silvery covered album. There's the back, and here we are, as Eartha Kitt says on that TV spot for Asia you can find on YouTube. Here we are in the land of Steely Dan. This is Steely Dan's greatest hits from 1978. Goes from Do It Again to Josie. It's on MCA Records. It's not a gatefold or anything. It's just 2 records stuffed into one big sleeve. I already have all of Steely Dan's work on this point, and this does not contain the song FM No Static at all, which I wish it did, but it does have Bodhisattva, which I never thought of as a hit before, but it's here anyway, so that's kind of cool. Waylon Jennings' Greatest Hits, 1979. These are classic Waylon Jennings country hits, the songs that made him big on RCA Records. I never had any Waylon Jennings before, and I don't have much country in my collection at all, so really happy to have this. Now this is very special. I have a lot of Donna Summer on CD and some on vinyl. And most of these songs are ones that I actually have, but the thing about this album that I like is that it has On the Radio, which I don't have. It has the long version of On the Radio, and No More Tears with Barbra Streisand on it. So 3 cuts I don't have. And the reason I got this is because it came with the original poster. I Love You, Donna, it says on the bottom. She's sitting on the jukebox. Get a little closer. Try to fold that poster back up. Folds up easier than the Earth, Wind and Fire one I had a couple videos ago. But really good to have this album. It doesn't always have tons of cuts because these are the original mixes. They're not just the single versions. So next up is the Little River Band's Greatest Hits from 1982. I remember this album as being a lot more diverse than you might expect. The Little River Band, I only know Reminiscing and Happy Anniversary primarily. I don't think it has a custom label or anything. It doesn't. Anyway, that's the Little River Band. ATF, After the Fire. This is the band that bought Falco's song the Commissar, I believe the Commissar translation, to American audiences first, I believe, in a more English translation. And this is actually not an ATF studio album, even though it's packaged to look like one. It's a compilation of their earlier albums from 1979 through 1982. And their Commissar is actually on this. It's just on the Epic label. You know what that looks like. It's on any Jackson's or Michael Jackson's solo records of the late 70s. Pete Townshend's Scoop. This is a double album of odds and ends. There's a lot of Who associated albums of odds and ends that really, you know, they're not necessarily coherent musical statements. This has some good abstract art in it. And there's some really good music on here. I mean, I actually might do a review on this vinyl at some other time, but it's really good to have outtakes from Quadrophenia, different things that Pete Townsend was working on, more experimentation. You know, rock artists tend to like to just be anthemic, and this shows him really being very musicianly, and I really appreciate that. It's just the Atco label. I think there's some pictures inside of Pete Townsend with the synthesizers and guitars. It's a fisheye lens view, stuff like that. There's a lot of good information. There's actually information on the top on all these songs and when they were recorded, so there's good information here. This last album was just given to me by my boyfriend this weekend, and it's known to be rather hard on vinyl to find, but he actually ended up with 3 copies. One for himself, one for a friend, and one he actually gave to me, Elton John's Greatest Hits, 1979 through 1987. This is the new Elton John that I knew, you know. I'm Still Standing, you know, Sad Songs Say So Much, Nikita, you know, songs like that are found on this album. Just on Geffen. This is from the BMG Music Service, if you can see the back of it, when they still had vinyl. So there it is, as it were. This is my collection of greatest hits albums on vinyl. I don't know how a lot of you in the VC feel about compilation albums in general. I often see them in videos, but usually in reference to an artist or just general vinyl finds. But these all have something unique in their packaging, or in some cases music I didn't even have before. Like, I don't have a lot of Little River Band. I don't have any After the Fire, so those are really good to have. So whether you like your albums or you like your songs as hits, enjoy your music. Peace.